apparently 11 a.m. is not the time to try to leave Fort Wilderness. We were stuck in the hitching post where we hook up our car for quite a while, waiting for traffic to thin out, which it never did.
It wasn't going to.
And somebody was kind enough to let us out. A lot of the first responders for the Reedy Creek fire department were out there playing some sort of frisbee soccer type game, which was pretty cool. And in freaking hilarious news, you know, the steps on our RV have been a topic of discussion for a couple of videos now, and well, I fired up the coach this morning to run the slides in and opened up the door,
at the stop sign.
and the steps came rolling out.
And you know what's crazy about that is if we could have gotten the steps out when we got here, we would have turned them off and they could have just sat there the whole time we were here.
Yep. Instead, we used a tiny little step ladder.
That was rickety and the poodle couldn't get up it. So
Right.
he jumped from the ground up.
They work, and there it was. I pulled the top rug off the step, and there's a noticeable impression on that rug, which leads me to believe that it was causing some sort of bind. So, you know, I imagine if you get those rugs positioned just perfectly on those quickie steps, they don't bind up and they work great. But we're not going to make that attempt. We're done with those rugs.
Turn left at the stop sign.
They're going to find a quick way into the Big Blue Bend when we get back to the house. But anyway.
The dogs are ready to go HOME, and I spell it because I don't want them to get overexcited thinking we're there now.
Yeah.
So you can see parents staring out the front.
We love Walt Disney World. We love this vacation. I mean, it's our 10th trip here, so obviously we enjoy it. But I'm ready to head to the lake, find me a mountain somewhere and hike a trail. Something somewhere that does not involve constant for your own safety speeches throughout the day and hordes of people that are nice in the morning, but as the day drags on, they get grumpy.
And college football season starts on my birthday, so we can start going to the lake.
Yep.
Continue 1 3/4 miles to the end of the
We go to
street.
the home games. We camp for the weekend at the lake.
Yep. It's a fun weekend. I don't know what today has in store. I don't know how far we're driving. We'll just play it by ear. Once I start getting a little weary of traveling, we'll try to find us a campground and move on.
What about when I'm weary of driving, of your driving?
Yeah, you don't ever get tired of my driving. Anyway.
You do pretty good, I'll give you that one.
Oh, thank you. We'll catch you down the road. what I got to deal with.
What am I gonna do? You want me to wipe that somehow?
No, it's alright. It'll clear up once we get rolling.
I thought I could stick my head out the window.
What was the name of this place? Kitchen Post Corral or campground, Cottondale, Florida, just off I-10. I kind of showed you that. We're just right beside the interstate.
Right beside the interstate. Fan on high and you can still hear the interstate.
Yeah. So if you're in a pop-up or a hybrid or a tent, well, I didn't see any tent sites, but if you're in a pop-up or a hybrid, I would say either probably not, or
regardless, make sure you bring a fan. If you have a fan, I think you can deal with it, or some kind of white noise.
but it's a well-kept campground, really nice. Just,
I can hear is nice.
yeah.
Away from the road. Is it a trash can at every site? No, almost every site. There's a trash can within reach. Oh, and they put a mat down for you. That's cool. Never had that before. She puts like a little welcome mat down in front of your camper when you stop. What you looking for?
I'm just looking around. Make sure everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Anyway, we're still a long ways from home. We got a big drive ahead of us today. But just like yesterday, I don't know how far we're going. I'll know when we get there.
Clear.
So it was a wet trip, a very wet trip. 8-hour drive.
When you fell? It was a wet trip.
We're not
Get
talking
it?
about that.
Get it? It was a wet
no,
trip.
we're not talking about that. We're talking about today.
You tripped and, and your feet were wet.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about driving.
Oh, that was kind of wet trip. Okay.
Yeah. Google Maps time was 6 hours and 10 minutes from where we were this morning to this KOA in Lafayette, Louisiana. It took us 8 hours, so almost RV time. We actually beat RV time by a little bit, and I didn't stop as much, and she actually let me know that once or twice along the way. She got up, made me fire up the generator so she could fire up the microwave because we were hungry, I was informed.
I will never get used to having a Class A and just like, oh, let me just go back there and nuke some frozen food that we made and eat it while we're driving. That's just too cool. I mean,
it is very cool.
Even every time I get up and go to the bathroom, I'm just like, wow.
But we're at this Lafayette KOA.
It's a pretty KOA.
It is a very pretty KOA.
Been here 3 times now.
3 or 4. And we stayed here when we did the motorcycle trip down to Orlando.
Oh, I wasn't
Stayed in the tent. Yeah. So this will be like the 4th time we've stayed here. It's kind of like a convenient point in the journey. Like on our way down to Florida, we can stop here, or Baton Rouge. This time we wanted to get closer to home, so we pulled in here. It's a little expensive for what it is, $52 a night. They do have a couple of pools. They've got paddle boats you can rent. And, you know, it's a KOA, so the sites are fairly close. They're not painfully close. And the interstate is right outside your front door.
But you got trees.
You do have trees, and it kind of shields a little bit of that noise, which is helpful. And this is an older KOA. This KOA has been around for quite some time. We've been, I think our first stop here was 20 years ago.
It was in the pop-up.
Yeah. So, anyway, a long wet journey today, and tomorrow I got to be home tomorrow night, so it's going to be a long day, a very long day. Probably won't document it. I'm just wanting to get home. I don't want to get home. My preference would be just to continue on and live the full-time RV life without a care in the world. But
oh yeah, we met some people that were going from South Florida to Oregon and spending a month, and I told them I want to follow them.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, you know, I don't like, when I was younger, you know, like that 16-hour drive that we did on the way down here, that was nothing. Now 8 hours is way too long. You know, if I could keep a day down to 5, maybe push 6, I don't know, that would be a decent travel day for me now. In a few years, when I retire and we do go full time, that's going to be just the way it is. We're not going to travel very far at all from one point to another. Just, you know, some days we may only drive 2 or 3 hours, which would be great with me. I like getting to the campground at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and being able to just sit back and chill out for a few hours. So. Anyway, we're going to head home from here.
Go back and see the grandbaby number 4 that was only this big when we left. Now he's like almost a month old.
Probably wearing a graduation cap from high school.
Well, that would be a really smart 1-month-old.
Got a really, really smart grandfather, so I mean, come on. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to it. Apparently, there's a few people out there that find us mildly entertaining. A little over 100 now.
Wow.
Yes.
I find this mildly entertaining.
I find you mildly entertaining too.
I don't think you're thinking the same way I find this entertaining. Like,
I'm not gonna take this conversation any further because
you could get hurt.
could get in trouble. Anyway, guys, we'll catch you down the road.